I knew the Uber wasn't mine when he said my name before I opened the door. The app only showed the car model, no name, yet he smiled and used my full first and last. My stomach dropped, but it was raining and I was tired and stupid, so I got in. The rain hit my neck like someone flicked cold fingers down my spine. The street was one of those shiny, smeared paintings of light. Red brake lights, wet asphalt, shitty neon from the liquor store. I remember thinking, okay, maybe the app just updated and I missed it. Maybe he saw my picture. Maybe there's some explanation. That's what your brain does when it wants to live. It invents reasons to stay in the car. Inside smelled like cheap air freshener and old sweat. The seats were warm, but not like from the heater, like someone else had just sat where I was. My clothes stuck to me, my backpack strap cut into my shoulder, and I kept telling myself, just get home, shower, sleep. Don't make a scene. Don't be that paranoid asshole. He didn't start the trip. I watched his hands on the wheel. No phone mounted. No navigation voice. Just his fingers, pale and dry, tapping the leather. My phone screen still showed arriving now. Tiny car icon parked at the curb, even though we'd already pulled away. I stared at it, waited for the status to change. It didn't. Hey, can you start the ride? I finally said. He didn't look at me. He just kind of grunted like he hadn't heard, but I know he did. The meter never started. No timer, no fare, nothing. It felt like we weren't anywhere. Just a car slipping through black water. We reached my turn. He drove past my turn. At first I thought he just missed it. People do that, right? They overshoot, loop around. I leaned forward, my heart hammering way harder than it should have. Hey, that was my street, I said. He didn't even flinch. I told him again, louder this time, said my address, pointed back. He ignored me. The wipers squeaked across the windshield, that awful rubber-on-glass scream, and he just kept driving like I wasn't there. I checked the app map on my phone. The little blue still sat on the curb where I'd ordered the ride, like I hadn't moved at all. The car icon didn't move either. Frozen. No trip started. No fare. Nothing. It was like the app had taken a snapshot of me and then just stopped giving a shit. That's on the bottom fell out of my chest. Because this wasn't some glitch anymore. If the app thought I was still on the curb, nothing tracked me now. No GPS trail, no route, no share my trip with my roommate. As far as the system knew, I never got in the car. I said, okay, what the fuck, man? You missed my turn and the app isn't running. Pull over. He finally spoke. His voice sounded wrong, like it came from the front vents instead of his throat. Relax, he said. There's a shortcut by the warehouses. He shouldn't have known about the warehouses. My normal route stayed in the residential area. Houses, bars, late-night pizza, people. The warehouses sat down by the river, in that dead industrial zone where nobody walked unless they wanted to get mugged or dump something. Or someone. My brain went white. Not even thoughts, just this loud hiss like feedback in my skull. I demanded he stop. I didn't ask. I yelled. I told him I'd report him, I'd call the cops, I'd smash his fucking windows. My throat shook, my hands shook, but the words came out sharp anyway. He locked the doors. I heard the click at the same time he said, almost bored, don't be dramatic. Something in me snapped then. Fear flipped into rage. I leaned forward, dug my nails into the headrest, and said, stop the car. Now. I wanted to hit him, claw his eyes out, I don't know. I just wanted him to know I wasn't going quiet. He sped up, not by much, just enough that I felt the difference. The rain blurred the outside world. Streetlights stretched into smeared halos, but I saw the turn toward the river approaching. I knew that road. I'd driven it once with a coworker, midday, and even then it felt wrong. I looked at my phone, 1 bar of signal, no trip, no emergency button, because honestly I'd always thought those were overkill and turned the safety pop-ups off. Stupid. The call screen spun when I tried to dial. No connection. It just hung there mocking me. He said, it's quicker this way, in this flat tone, like a teacher correcting a kid. My body made the decision before my mind did. I unbuckled. The belt snapped back against the pillar. I reached around him, grabbed the steering wheel with both hands, and yanked it hard toward the sidewalk. He screamed, not a word, just this raw sound, and slammed the brakes. The tires lost grip. We skidded sideways across the wet road. The world flipped into jerky frames. Headlights swinging, metal whining, my shoulder smacking the door, the side of my head bouncing off the window. The car hit the curb with a crunch and stalled halfway onto the sidewalk, nose pointing at a brick wall. The air smelled like hot rubber and that sour, electric stink of overheated wires. The horn blared once and then died. For a second, we both just sat there, breathing, listening to the tick-tick-tick of the cooling engine. Then I moved. Pude survivar. I shoved at the lock on my side. Of course, it stayed down. Child locks, central lock, whatever the fuck he'd used. But the crash must have jolted something because when I slammed my shoulder into the door, it popped open an inch. I grabbed the handle with both hands, threw my weight into it, and the door flew wide. I bailed out before the car fully stopped and ran. My ankle twisted on the wet curb, but adrenaline yanked me upright before I could fall. My backpack bounced, my lungs burned, and I didn't even pick a direction. I just ran away from the warehouses, away from the river, away from that car. I kept waiting to hear footsteps behind me, or the engine revving back to life, or tires peeling out after me. Nothing, just rain and my own ragged breathing. When I finally looked back, he didn't chase me, just sat there, engine idling, watching. The headlights washed over the wet brick, and behind the glass his face looked unreal, like a mask someone had left on a shelf. He didn't gesture, didn't yell, didn't move, just stared. We locked eyes for half a heartbeat. I saw recognition there, like he'd file me away in some mental folder. Not a failed victim, not a loose end, just a postponed task. That's what it felt like he'd pick me up later. I bolted again. I cut through alleys, jumped puddles, slipped on leaves, swore at every shadow. I must have circled my own block twice because everything blurred. Doors, windows, faceless silhouettes lit by blue TV light. Not one person stepped out. Not one car slowed down to ask if I was okay. City full of people, and I could have vanished on that stretch by the river and nobody would have heard a damn thing. By the time I reached my building, I shook so hard I dropped my keys twice. My fingers didn't work. I kept seeing the static Uber screen burned into my brain. Arriving now. Just stuck. Like the night never ended. Inside my apartment, I locked the door, then pushed the couch against it because the normal lock suddenly didn't feel like anything. My roommate asked what happened and I snapped at her, told her to shut up, then immediately apologized. I couldn't explain it out loud yet. Words made it too real. But I needed proof. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy, that I didn't just freak out on some random guy because of a glitch. I opened the app. No record of the ride. No cancel trip. No, you were charged a fee. Nothing. It jumped from searching for drivers to the previous ride I'd taken days ago. Like tonight had been manually erased. I knew his plate. I knew the car model. I remembered part of his face, but every time I tried to pin it down in my head, it blurred at the edges. My memory slid off it like water off oil. That scared me more than anything. I started to wonder if he'd pick me out, follow me before, practice this. At home, I posted on our city subreddit, half rant, half panic. I typed with shaking fingers, dumped everything. The name, the locked doors, the fake shortcut, the way the app froze. A couple people said I overreacted, called me dramatic, said sometimes drivers forget to start the trip. One asshole wrote, maybe he just wanted to save you money. Princess. I almost threw my phone at the wall. Someone replied with a screenshot of another post. Different user, same car, same plate. Driver won't start trip, last seen near the river. Their account showed deleted. No further comments. First night in my new apartment, the landlord slipped and called me by the wrong name. Not a little mix-up. He used my exact nickname from Facebook. I froze. My socials are locked. No real name. I had this box in my arms halfway through the door, and he just drops it casual. That stupid little nickname I only ever use online when I'm being an asshole in the comments. I hadn't written it on the lease, hadn't said it out loud. Hearing it echo down that stale hallway felt like getting slapped. He saw me pause. He smiled in that oops, my bad way and said he must have seen it somewhere. That didn't help. Somewhere meant he went looking. I laughed like it was nothing, because what else do you do when some old guy who has keys to your home reveals he's been digging through your life? After he left, his steps thumped overhead, my ceiling his floor. I kept tracking him by sound while I unpacked. The place was small and ugly, but it was cheap. Peeling laminate, old appliances, that sweet, rotten smell in the stairwell that never fully goes away. I tried to focus on that, anything normal, but my brain kept circling back. He shouldn't know that name. I opened my laptop just to prove I was being paranoid. Private Instagram, private Facebook, locked down all accounts. No mutuals in this city. No public posts with my face and that nickname together. The only way you find that one is if you already know my real name and go down the rabbit hole on purpose. I shut the laptop hard. The apartment felt wrong, like I'd walked onto a set and everyone else knew the script but me. When I went to bed, I couldn't stop staring at the smoke detector over the headboard. The red LED blinked steady, but it looked aimed. Too bright, too deliberate. In the dark, it reminded me of a recording light on a camera. I told myself I was being dramatic, rolled over, rolled back, rolled over again. Every move, the little red, I just sat there and watched. At some point, the irritation burned hotter than the fear. I dragged a chair under it, climbed up, pried at the plastic with my nails. I expected a loud beep, maybe some dust. Instead, the cover popped, and something heavy swung down on black tape. Not smoke detector guts, a tiny black square with a glass eye. I just froze there eye level with it, both of us hanging off the ceiling. The little thing was warm against my fingertips. That fucked me up more than anything. It meant it hadn't been there for years, forgotten. It was running. Recently. On me. I ripped it out like it was alive. Wires taped the whole carcass. No alarm sounded. Just this quiet ripping noise, and then my own breathing, way too loud. On the kitchen counter, I turned it over. No brand, just a reset pinhole and a Wi-Fi symbol. I didn't have to be a genius. I opened my laptop again and checked my connected devices. My phone, my laptop, one unnamed device just sitting there. As I stared at its MAC address, it blinked off the list. Disconnected. Whoever watched me saw me find the camera. That's when the fear turned solid. I sat on the floor with my back against the cupboard and thought about calling the cops, and then pictured explaining any of this to some bored officer who'd already decided I was dramatic before I finished sentence one. The landlord lived upstairs. The lease had his full name and address. He'd say it was for security or some shit. He'd say I broke it, and he had keys. That part kept looping. I barely slept. Lights on, clothes on, back against the wall, waiting for the handle to move. At around 3 a.m., I heard steps in the hall outside my door. Slow, pausing right where I knew my door was. The handle didn't turn, but I heard that soft metal rattle when someone tests it just enough to feel the lock. They didn't try to force it. It was worse, somehow, like they were reminding themselves which door was mine. Morning didn't feel safer, just brighter. I grabbed coffee from the corner place and drank it on the walk back, trying to convince myself I'd imagine half of it. The camera in my bag banged against my hip like proof every time my brain tried to minimize. On the way up the stairs, I noticed a heavy fire door at the back of the hallway I'd ignored before. No sign, just exit above it. I pushed it open and felt cold air from below. The basement. I told myself I was just curious. That was bullshit. I was hunting. Concrete steps led to a big, low room with laundry machines on one side and storage cages on the other. It smelled like wet dust and metal. The cages were those wire mesh types where you can see everything. Old bikes, lumpy garbage bags, holiday decorations. Each had a number on the door. I walked the row, pretending I had some reason to be there. Halfway down, my skin prickled before my brain caught up. One cage had a white label instead of a number taped to the wire. The writing had bled a little from damp. My nickname, not my legal name, not some close version, The exact cursed internet handle my landlord should never have known, scrawled in pen and stuck to this cage like it belonged there. The padlock on it was closed, but not snapped, just hanging. My hand shook as I unhooked it and swung the door open. Inside, boxes and random girl stuff. Flats in a plastic bin, a bag of toiletries, a cracked mirror, an old hoodie, a tangle of jewelry in a bowl. All the debris of someone's life paused mid-sentence. Not junk you dump when you move out. Things you come back for. And on top, a thick stack of printed screenshots. I pulled them out and flipped through. Reddit posts, Insta profiles, snapshots of women's faces, their usernames, their timelines. Same blue new account bar in the corner on a lot of them, like someone stalked fresh burners. Most posts were from local subs and hashtags, tagged with my city or the next one over. Sometimes the screenshot zoomed in on the girl's face. Sometimes on the room behind her, kitchens, living rooms, hallways. Notes scribbled in the margins in thin, careful handwriting. Same blinds as 4B. Porch faces alley, night shift nurse. My heart slammed. This wasn't some lonely creep collecting selfies. This was mapping. Then I hit the page that stopped me. A girl in a small kitchen, leaning against the counter with a wine glass, mid-laugh. It took my brain a second to recognize the background. The counter was this ugly model gray. The cabinet above her shoulder had a corner chipped off, a perfect little triangle missing. I turned my head slowly and looked at my own kitchen. The same ugly laminate, the same missing corner. It was my apartment. The date stamp on the screenshot, 8 months ago. I flipped to the next page with numb hands. Same photo again, but now it was cropped inside a missing person megathread. Her username highlighted in blue, flare under it. Last seen leaving her apartment. No signs of forced entry. Comments blurred together. Maybe she just left. Check the boyfriend. Landlords always know more than they say. Someone had circled a line in red pen. The landlord reported her as moved out. Room cleared. I wanted to throw up. I pictured her laughing in my kitchen at whoever held the phone. I pictured her walking out the same door I'd walked in, thinking she was safe because she locked it. Above me, Wood groaned. A chair scraped across the floor. The ceiling literally dusted my hair. He was home. Maybe he wondered why the basement door was unlatched. Maybe he noticed the missing smoke detector already. I shoved the screenshots back into the box, jammed it into the cage, yanked the door shut. I hooked the lock like I'd never been there, even though my fingerprints were probably all over everything by then. Back in my apartment, I locked the deadbolt, slid the chain, and dragged the heaviest chair I owned against the door until the leg squealed. I put the busted smoke detector and the tiny camera on the table and just stared at them. There was no way this was nothing. The nickname on the cage, the girls on paper, the missing woman in my kitchen with the same chip in the cabinet, the Wi-Fi device that ran the second I pulled the plug. I argued with myself about the cops again. If I called and nothing happened, he'd know. If I didn't call, I was the idiot in the first act of every true crime story yelling at the screen later. I opened the girl's missing megathread properly this time and read all of it. Her friends sounded exhausted and desperate. One of them mentioned she always said her landlord was so helpful. Helpful? Yeah, I didn't last 48 hours in that place. I messaged my friend, said I needed a crash on her couch, blamed it on bad vibes and bugs and anything that wasn't my landlord is hunting women through the walls. People get weird when you say things like that out loud. They either don't believe you or they do, and then they look at you like you're contagious. I went back in daylight in short bursts, grabbed my stuff in frantic trips, never stayed long enough to hear footsteps in the hall. Every time I walked under a smoke detector, I felt watched, even if it was brand new and still had the sticker on. I took the camera with me when I left for good. I still have it in a box in my closet, stupid little black square. I keep telling myself I'll hand it to a detective with those printed screenshots and watch his face change. Then I imagine the landlord's face when he realizes his toy is gone, and I freeze. My landlord still lives upstairs. He still has keys. I sleep with mine jammed under the deadbolt and a chair against the door, And yeah, I moved, but I double-check every smoke detector now. I used to do remote IT for a big company. One night, I pulled a late ticket. PC running slow, please clean. Standard stuff. I remote in, opened their downloads folder, and almost noped out of my chair. It wasn't programs or PDFs. It was rows of folders named with women's first names and years. Sarah underscore 2022, Megan underscore 2021, Julie underscore 2019. Each one lined up like some neat little filing system. For a second, I told myself, okay, maybe HR dumped something here by mistake. I clicked one anyway. Inside, screenshots from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Zoomed in on faces, badges, cars. Cropped security cam shots from our office hallways. A selfie ripped from somewhere. Then right next to it, a grainy frame from a lobby camera of the same woman walking in. Then an HR form with her full name and employee ID. Then a file called notes.txt. I opened that and my palms went sweaty fast. Bullet points. Usually leaves 510 to 520. Parts on level 2 near pillar C3. Lives alone, ground floor. Keeps blinds cracked at night. It read like someone doing recon. No jokes, no flirting, no comments. Just cold tracking. I backed out, picked another folder. Different woman, same pattern. Social media, badge photo, camera stills, another notes.txt. Walks dog 23 to 23:15. Drinks Thursdays, Uber from side entrance. No ring. These weren't random screenshots. Whoever made this sat and watched them for months. I checked the username on the ticket again, thinking I'd misread. It looked like a normal internal ID. When I pulled asset info, half the fields came back restricted. Department, system services. Manager, blank. I'd never seen that combo. We always had at least a manager name. At that point, I knew it was bad enough that if I touched anything, someone would notice. So I did what training drilled into me, document and escalate. I took screenshots of the folder list and a couple of notes files, making sure the machine name and username showed. Even while I did it, I felt watched. Like whoever owned that PC could feel me poking around. I pinged my supervisor on chat, dropped the screenshots, and wrote something like, "This is not just porn or whatever, this is stalking. What do I do?" Then I called him because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. He answered with that bored tone, like I'd woken him up. I walked him through it, line by line. He went quiet for a long time, then said, "Okay, stop looking. Document what you've already seen. Don't tell anyone else. Legal will handle it." That pissed me off. I told him this looked like someone planning to follow these women home. I said, "If something happens and we did nothing, that's on us." He cut me off and switched to his corporate voice. Told me I was overstepping and reminded me of confidentiality obligations. Basically, shut up and log the incident. When I kept pushing, he dropped a nice tone and snapped. "You want to keep your job? You follow process." Then he hung up, so I did the obedient thing. I opened our incident system, filled out the form, attached the sanitized screenshots, wrote a summary that already sounded weaker on the page than in my head. I marked the ticket escalated and closed my remote session. The cursor vanished on her desktop, and I felt weirdly guilty, like I just locked a door on someone tied up inside. Next morning, first thing I did was search that ticket. Nothing. Not resolved, not canceled. It just didn't exist anymore. The asset search for that machine threw an error I'd never seen. When I tried to remote in, I got a hard access denied, like the PC belonged to another company now. I messaged my supervisor. He replied eventually with one line: "Incident under legal review. No further action required." For a few days, I tried to swallow it. I told myself maybe security already stormed into some creep's office. Maybe HR already called the cops. I saw the same women around work and almost said something, then heard his voice in my head. "You want to keep your job?" So I kept my mouth shut and reset passwords and fixed printers and pretended I hadn't seen anything. 2 weeks later, the company reached into my home. My personal phone rang around 1 a.m. Caller ID showed one of our internal extensions. That should be impossible. Internal numbers aren't supposed to hit outside lines. I answered anyway. Hello. Nothing. Then I heard faint mouse clicks, the kind you hear when you sit in a quiet office at night. A little scrape, a click, pause, another click. No TV noise, no voices, just someone working. I said hello again. The call dropped. I checked our call logs the next day. That extension existed, but there was no record of a call to my name. A ghost call. I told myself it was some VoIP glitch and moved on. Next night, same time, different internal number. Same thing. Silence, breathing, faint mouse clicks, then hang up. This time it went on for maybe 30 seconds. At one point, I swear, I heard the Windows error chime we use on our lockdown builds. It didn't sound like a phone. It sounded like someone put their headset mic next to a monitor. After that, it became a pattern. Not every night, but often enough that I started flinching at any ring after dark. Always our internal format. Always breathing and clicks, never a word. I stopped answering and watched them roll into voicemail, but no messages ever appeared. It was just someone proving they could reach me from inside. Then my private Instagram, locked, fake name, barely any info, got a follow request. Username looked exactly like our login style, letters and numbers. Avatar, our company logo, clean and official. No bio, no posts. Someone had pulled my account from somewhere and wrapped it in company skin. I denied it. A few hours later, the request vanished, then came back, like they were hitting follow unfollow just to keep tapping on my notifications. I started digging on my side. I checked for any logins to my work account from unfamiliar locations. Nothing. I checked if my employee file had been accessed recently. I didn't have permission, of course. Every door that might show me something was locked to my level. That was its own message. Then the envelope showed up. I came home late, juggling takeout in my bag, and saw it half under my door. No stamp, no return address, just a blank, white envelope someone slid from the hallway. Inside was a single printed page. My street from map view, zoomed in, my building circled in red. Not messy, not scribbled, just a perfect circle like someone used a shape tool. Under it, centered in the same corporate font we used on all our training decks, were the words, "System scan complete." No threat, no demand. Just that. But that font hit harder than any "I'm watching you" note would have. It said, "This isn't one creepy guy. This is tied into the same system that signs your paychecks, runs your VPN, tracks your logins. This is inside the machine you work for." I stood there in the hallway, so long my food went cold. Every line from those notes, .txt files replayed itself in my head. Live's ground floor. Usually leaves alone. No ring. I realized I'd probably got my own folder now. Someone could write, checks queues late, lives at address, answers unknown calls. I started imagining what other screenshots they had. Me at my desk. Me on webcam during some stupid Teams meeting. Me unlocking my front door with my bag in hand. I called my supervisor the next morning and told him I was done. I didn't tell him about the map. I didn't give them that. I just said someone was contacting me from internal numbers, that it started after I reported that machine, and that I no longer trusted the company to protect me. He went into full PR mode. Said he was sorry I felt that way. Reminded me again that discussing ongoing legal matters could expose me to liability. He didn't ask about the calls. He didn't ask if I was okay. He just wanted me quiet. That made the decision easy. I updated my resume, fired off applications, and the moment I got an offer that paid even remotely enough, I took it. I spent a weekend backing up my personal docs, wiping old drives, killing social media, changing every password I remembered ever using. I factory reset my phone. I unplugged my smart speakers. Overkill maybe, but I'd seen how much data someone could collect if they really wanted to. On my last day, I turned in my badge and laptop. Security scanned the hardware, smiled, said, "Good luck," like this was just another exit. I walked out of that building feeling like the walls were watching me leave. I kept waiting for someone to stop me, to say something about the incident, to threaten me outright. Nobody did. That almost felt worse. Like I wasn't even a person, just a closed ticket. I quit, wiped everything, moved. HR sent a canned exit email. The creepy part? It came from the same user ID as that original ticket.